In general, the Inflation Reduction Act, as I said initially, is something generally positive because it's for the first time that the United States invest massively in the green transition. We've waited for that for long, and therefore it's in general good. What we want is fairness, and we see that there are some worrisome parts in the IRA. First of all, the Buy American logic that privileges American production. Second, tax breaks that might discriminate European companies, and production subsidies with the same effect. And therefore, it is for us important to work very closely with the White House, with the Biden administration. First of all, on specific exemptions that are necessary. We are in the course of discussion about that. For example, the definition of electric vehicles that have access to the American market. We want the same treatment like Canada and Mexico. Secondly, we have to do our own homework. And indeed, the typical equivalent to tax breaks on the European level is state aid. And therefore, we will come forward in January with a state aid proposal that is not only faster and simpler, but even more predictable. And that takes into account that we do not only look at competition at the single market of the European Union, but also the global competition that we have to take into account. The third element is important because we know that not all member states are able to use state aid because of lack of fiscal capacities or fiscal space. And therefore, it is necessary to have a level playing field within the European Union, to also have a funding element. The short-term answer is to boost Repower EU. We have now Repower EU. Repower EU is targeted to bring investment to the crucial points of renewables, of infrastructure, and energy efficiency. That's exactly what we need. In the midterm, we need a structural answer, and that is the Sovereignty Fund. We had a very good discussion, and we had a positive reception with a lot of positive comments on the letter that I sent to Council, the leaders, to frame the discussion. And that shows that there is an immediate tasking, that we are being asked to provide a needs assessment, to provide the answer to this competitiveness question, and to come with an overall approach, as I have described in the letter to the leaders in Council.
Je voudrais ajouter que nous avons en réalité.
In fact, we are facing three challenges which have been exacerbated by Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine. On the one hand, we see that we absolutely need to reduce our dependence on China. Now we've seen the consequences of that. Secondly, we have to guarantee a level playing field with the USA. And some of the decisions they've taken do have an impact, and they are obliging us to react to this, to work together, to channel our efforts together. And this is what we're going to be working on in the months to come. And then thirdly, we also have to ensure that we can guarantee the integrity of our single market and avoid the temptation to fragment our single market. Now, of course, not all member states have the same capabilities, the same margin of maneuver to come to the support of their economy. So, three challenges, serious challenges, but we're all fully aware of this. And we have no choice. We have to react swiftly and determinedly, which is why we beefed up the conclusions today by asking that all the proposals should be tabled by the end of January next year. And we are also going to convene again on the 9th and 10th of February in the UCO. We're going to be discussing migration back then, but we're also going to be discussing these self-same issues in February, and we hope that the Council then will give a firm steer to the future actions and discussions. And in fact, we want to go even further. We need to look at where we can take speedy decisions. We need to adjust our state aid arrangements. Now, our economic foundation in the EU is that we should give the market free rein, free trade, which is why often we are against the state aid. We've often criticized China for using state aid to disrupt the level playing field at a global level. So we have asked the Commission to come up with proposals to address the situation. A second point, we need to see how we can become more flexible in mobilizing funds, existing funds. We've got a lot of funds that have already been mobilized in the recovery plans. A lot of funds have not been used as yet, but really it takes too long between the money being committed and the money being spent. So we need to address this particular problem. We need greater speed and flexibility. And then a third point, solidarity, the shore mechanism will hopefully allow us to make sure that there is also fairness across the board in Europe. And in the medium term, as the President said, what we need to look at is a sovereign fund. And this links up to the strategic autonomy of the EU. Namely, we need to ensure that we can support the key sectors, key for our future. So defense and security, energy as well, new technologies. These are the sectors that we need to work on in a more structured approach. I think our generation is going through great turmoil because of this war, but it should ensure that we actually rise to the challenge, because all of this will have an impact not only for the months to come, but in years to come. An impact on the EU's possibility of remaining a dominant force.